Hello, ranchers, dippers, and dunkers alike. Welcome back to Spill the Ranch. I am your host, Noelle Loves Ranch, aka Noelle Loves Sloths on all other social media. I am here to spill all the ranch with you every single Wednesday. I talk all about things from school and teaching to celebrity and influencer gossip and everything in between, including little snippets about my life. So let's first address the elephant in the room. It's been 2 weeks since I have sat down with all of you, and I have to say, I really missed all 12 of you. Just kidding, there's probably more like at least 20 of you. LOL. We are a small but mighty group of ranchers, dippers, and dunkers. So today, we are going to cover a few different things. I have a lot of things I'm excited to talk about. The big thing that I will be talking about today is going to be teenagers. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry if you can hear that. My stomach just gurgled. I'm like really hungry. I should have had that protein bar and I forgot. Anyways, the big thing I want to talk about is teenagers and their nicotine addictions, okay? I will also be doing a segment where I answer all of your juicy questions from Instagram. But before all of that, we have to catch up on our 4th of July weeks. So if you want a question or a story featured on this podcast in the future, make sure to follow at Spill the Ranch on Instagram, as well as at Noelle Loves Sloths on Instagram. Spill the Ranch is the podcast Instagram, and Noelle Loves Sloths is my personal Instagram, and I gather questions from both of those Instagrams and to put on this podcast. I also have a Spill the Ranch email. It's spilltheranch@gmail.com. So if you have like a longer story to share or something of that sort that you want shared on the podcast, don't hesitate to send it to the email. As always, anytime I share a question or a story that has been submitted, I will never share your name, so you don't have to worry about me ever sharing your name. It'll always be anonymous. Lastly, before we get started, oh my goodness, I'm really apparently really hungry. Lastly, before we get started, don't forget to give this podcast a glowing 5-star review to show Spotify how witty and cute and fun I am, so that I can continue to make this podcast as high quality as possible for you all. Thanks a bunch. Love you, fam. So let's get started on the 4th of July recap. So for the 4th, this year, my fiance Zach and I, we drove up to his parents' lake house in Delavan, Wisconsin. And if you've never heard of that, if you are from the Chicago area, you've probably heard of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which is right next to Delavan. And a lot of people from Chicago typically go up there because it's only about an hour and a half north of Chicago. It's like at the very like southern part of Wisconsin, kind of by Milwaukee. And so yeah, lots of Illinois people up there. And normally we go up there like multiple times in the summer. Like I think last year we went up there like 3 or 4 times, but because of Zach has like bachelor parties this summer and I have a few things going on, and we've already traveled to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And so it's just been a very busy summer. So this is our only time we were able to go up there for the foreseeable future. And so we were there for the entire week, which was really nice. And Zach's parents were there, as well as his sister, his brother-in-law. And then my sister also came up and joined us, which was really fun. Both of our sisters live in Chicago, so it's really easy for them to get up. There's even a train that goes all the way up almost to Delavan. So really convenient for them. For Zach and I, not quite as convenient. It's about a 7.5-hour drive, but really not bad at all. We're very used to it. So it was a really, really nice, relaxing week. Let's see, we boated almost every day. We had pretty good weather. It did rain a little bit, but we boated almost every day. I think we went 4 times, which is like a lot. Zach's parents recently bought this new boat, and it's like a really, really nice boat. So it was very enjoyable to be on the boat every day. And we whipped it around. It can go really fast. So that was really fun. I ate a lot of cheese curds, which cheese curds are like one of my favorite foods of all time. Sometimes they do hurt my tum-tum a little bit, but, you have to push past that and just enjoy the curd. And I enjoyed many a curd this past week, had many cheese curds, and it was lovely. And that's kind of it. I don't actually have much else to report because typically when I am on vacations with family, especially when I'm with my in-laws, I try not to, film a lot. I try to unplug a little bit, and I don't like to be filming everything and filming all the time. And so I prefer to enjoy the moments without, filming them. And that kind of brings me actually to a little tangent that I want to talk about. And I want to talk about it, but I don't want to come across as a hater because that's not what I'm trying to be. I'm trying to just explain how the life is not for me. So I'm going to try to articulate this in the most positive way that I can. However, I am at risk of sounding like a hater. So when it comes to vlogging and filming things, I'm not very good at it because I typically like to live in the moment. Like I like to have specific times to film my content, and like that's it. I don't like to be I'm really bad at vlogs because it's not natural for me to be videotaping everything that I do. And so I see a lot of influencers, and that could be a reason why like I am not as successful as many other creators, is because like I don't like to do that type of thing. And I'm very aware of that. Like there are a lot of other very, very successful influencers, and I think it's because they give part of their life over to the internet and to that kind of life. And like there's so many vloggers who literally will videotape like every part of their day, every little moment, especially when it's with their kids. And we all know how I feel about children being on TikTok and children being on the internet. I've talked about it before. I don't think it's right. I think it's disgusting to use your children to make money from the internet. But that's just me. I'm not trying to judge. I just would never do that myself. And I do think it's wrong, though, for the sake of the children. But if you're a parent, I guess you can do whatever is right with your family. And I've talked about that before. However, I don't see the appeal of filming every little moment. It just makes everything feel so like disingenuine. Is that the right word? Ingenuine? Not genuine. Like when you film all of these moments of your life, at what point does it become like you're kind of faking it? Like I guess that's why like I just don't want to be filming. Like I don't want the people in my life to think that I'm like only having a good time for the camera, And like I guess I don't really know what else I want to say about it. Like I'm not talking down on any people who do this, because if they do this and it works for them, and clearly it does work for a lot of people, because like a lot of these creators are like killing it and they're doing really awesome in social media and like do what works for them. But I think maybe that's why partially like I haven't been successful on that, because I don't really like doing it, and it's like not natural for me. And so I don't even know where I was really going with that, but I do think it is really important to put your phone down sometimes, especially when your kids are involved, and like just enjoy the moment. And like back to what I was talking about before, that's why usually when I go on vacations I don't post a whole lot usually, because I'm trying to not film the whole thing, and I don't want to spend time that I am there. I'm there to spend time with my family, who I don't see often, especially because we don't live in the same state. Same with Zach. His parents don't live in the same state as us. And so when we do see our family, like it's not very often we get to see them. And so I don't want to just be like filming all the time. Now it's a different story. Like if I go home to visit my parents and I'm like home for like a long break, like if it's just my parents and me, like I do have a little bit more time. But when we're with like all of our family, I just like, I don't want to spend all that time filming and editing videos. Like I want to just have fun. So anyway, that was my very long-winded tangent. Sorry about that. Let's move on to teenagers and vaping. Now keep in mind, these are just my opinions. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert about nicotine products. These are just conclusions about observations I have made as a teacher and just like as a human. So teenagers, like, they're addicted. Like, they are addicted to nicotine. And this is nothing new. Like, teenagers have always been attracted to cigarettes or, chew, things of the sort. And so this is nothing really new. It's just vaping is a little bit more new. Like, I have students who literally can't go even 1 hour without running to the bathroom and probably vaping. Like, I don't know for sure if that's what they're doing, but I have students who I know for a fact use the bathroom every single hour of the day, and we all just know that they're not going to the bathroom every time they do that. And but there's no way for me to like police that. I can't follow them into the bathroom, while I'm teaching a lesson. So it's one of those things, like, I think it is probably what they're doing. And, maybe we should have like bathroom monitors. I don't know. But, of course, vapes and e-cigarettes have been around for a while, but Juuls really started to become popular. Like Juul, like the smaller type of vape can fit in your pocket. Like, there used to be like, I remember when I was in high school, one time I was at this party, and someone had this ginormous like e-cigarette vape thing, but it was like big. Like, I would say it was almost the size of this cup. And so it was like a big e-cigarette, and I just remember seeing it. I was like, what the heck is that? But then, like, when I was in college, I want to say around like 2016, Juuls became very big, and they were probably a lot more convenient because they're smaller. They can fit in your pocket. They can fit anywhere. And so I had a lot of friends who had Juuls when I was in college. People would usually use them when we would like go out to bars, things of that sort. But like, then again, we were also of age. We were adults. We were 21. Like, that's the thing. When you're of age, that's not what bugs me here. Like, I'm not concerned about adults using nicotine. Everybody has a vice. Like, everybody can do what they want. Like, I know adults who use nicotine still, and like, it's not a big deal. That's not who I'm worried about. I'm worried about the younger generation of teenagers, because they are so young. Like, I teach kids that are 14, 15, 16, 17. They are not adults yet. They are close, but they're not adults. And like, I understand why vaping has become such this frenzy. Big Vape has made it so that nicotine vapes are literally everywhere. When you go into the gas station, there's probably more types of vapes than there are cigarettes, which is like crazy. But like, there's just so much when you go into a gas station. Just the amount of nicotine that you can get at a gas station is just crazy. And like, I'm so concerned about this younger generation because they are so impressionable. They don't really realize how bad this is for them. And that's why, like I said, I'm not so concerned about adults doing this. They can make decisions for themselves. I don't see a problem with adults using it. But when kids that are so impressionable, so easily addicted to something as well, and they think they're invincible, and they don't realize how hard it is to quit. I have known several people who have tried to quit, and a lot of times it takes multiple tries to quit, and it's not easy. And people, like teenagers, think, oh, whatever, like whenever I want to quit this, I'll just quit. But no, that's kind of not how it works. It's an addictive substance, and it's not going to be easy to quit when you want to. And I want teenagers to know that, like, if one day you start freaking out thinking like, oh my gosh, like, is this hurting my lungs? Is this going to have lasting effects on my health? Yeah, it probably will. And no, it's not good for your lungs either. It might make your teeth fall out. Like, there's a lot of bad things associated with, being addicted to vapes specifically, but nicotine as well. Like, it's not really a good thing to be addicted to anything. Like I said, we all have our vices, but when you're an adult, you can make that decision for yourself. When you're a teenager, you don't really know the severity of the situation all the time. So I don't know what the solution is for this. Teens are always going to be attracted to nicotine products. They will always want to rebel against their parents. And so like I don't know what the solution for trying to get this, a decrease in usage for this, but I kind of just wanted to talk about it. Like I said, I don't know everything. These are just observations, but like what I've observed is like at my school, like kids are suspended almost like all the time for having vapes or being caught vaping in school. And like, they know that it's wrong and they like can't help themselves, And so it's definitely a serious situation. And I just wanted to call attention to it because kids this young, like shouldn't be getting addicted to something like this. Like it's just, it's kind of sad to see and it's worrisome for sure. And because obviously we want the best for these teenagers. We want them to have the best chance at, having a long, long life, being healthy, being successful. And it makes me sad to see that, big vape is coming after them. So yeah, I don't have much else to say about that, but I think it's time to move on to to the next segment. I think we've talked about teenagers and nicotine enough now, so we can move on. Wow, I cannot speak. Let's move on to the final segment of today's episode, which is the Q&A segment. And I haven't done a Q&A like in a video form for a really long time. I guess this is a video form and like audio form since it's a podcast. But I thought it'd be fun to do today, just answering a few of your questions. These were all sent in by listeners who follow me on Instagram. I posted a story yesterday saying, ask me anything for the podcast. So here we go. Okay, question number 1. Why do you have the diet of a 12-year-old? Okay, so, well, I like what I like, okay? What can I say? Can we just let people live? Like, seriously. But for real, I've always been like kind of a picky eater. As I've grown up, I've definitely begun to branch out a little bit, but when I find something I really, really like, it will become one of my like safe foods. And I don't know, I don't know how to explain it. So I would say like 6 or 7 years ago, I started to experience anxiety surrounding food. And like not in the way that like I didn't want to eat, but in the way that I'd be scared to try something new or scared to eat a certain food because I was scared that I would suddenly become allergic to it or that it would make me sick, or that I would get food poisoning because I got really, really sick back when I was in college and like it was like traumatic, which like sounds really goofy, but that's just what happened. And so I got this really bad anxiety surrounding food. And so I would get nervous to try new foods or try something that I haven't eaten in a long time just for fear that it would like make me sick or something like that. And so for a while it was difficult for me to branch out and try new things. And I'm still working on it, but I definitely have gotten a lot better over the past like 3 years. And I've gotten a little bit more comfortable trying new things and just like becoming comfortable eating certain foods again. Like there's a long time I thought I was allergic to dairy and I stopped eating ice cream, just specifically ice cream. Like I stopped eating ice cream for like years because I was afraid that I thought I was allergic to it, even though I had like no evidence to back that up. And then finally, like honestly, only like a few months ago, I started eating ice cream regularly again. And I was like, oh, like it doesn't actually make me sick. It sounds really goofy and it makes sense in my head. Actually, it doesn't even make sense in my head. I'm kind of weird that way. But in terms of like the diet of a 12-year-old, like I said, I like certain foods. I have foods that I like. When I like a food, I'm going to eat it all the time. When I like Taco Bell, I'm going to eat it. When I like McDonald's, I'm going to eat it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I've never been a healthy person. I've always liked unhealthy food. And that's just kind of how I roll. So I'm going to keep eating like a 12-year-old. I'm just gonna. And you guys are going to have to deal with it. All right, moving on to our second question. Has a student ever cussed at you? Yes. Yes. Many times, of course. I teach teenagers. Like, obviously that's going to happen. Even when I taught 12-year-olds, they cuss at me a lot. Like, it just happens. But actually, on my very first day of student teaching, when I was 22, so I was only 22 and I was teaching seniors in high school. So like they were 18, I was 22. I was not a lot older than them. I did not probably seem that much older than them. And so on my very first day, I asked the student to put her phone away because she was like on her phone while the teacher was teaching. And or something like that. Something related to like asking to put her phone away or something like that. And she called me a bitch. And it was definitely humbling. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Like, so yeah, that actually happened the very first day that I ever taught. It was kind of funny. I never had like another issue with that specific student again or anything, but, like the rest of the semester ended up being totally fine and I had a good time. But this past year actually was really good. Like I had so many like almost every single student was like really respectful this past year in the 2023-2024 school year. And like this past year, I don't think I had any instances where like a student like cussed me out or anything like that. But it definitely has happened before. And it happens. People are human. Teenagers are human. I don't get mad at them when they cuss. I just like say like, hey, let's like reel it in or something like that. Like I don't get mad at them if a word slips out, because, you know, it happens. But yeah, so it definitely has. And, but this past year was really good. I had so many great students this past year. Like, honestly, it was kind of sad that the school year ended. But yeah, let's move on to our next question. Number 3, what is your proudest accomplishment? I would like say that I don't necessarily have that many accomplishments, and maybe that's kind of an embarrassing thing to say at 27. I could say like there are some things when I was in high school that I was proud of myself for, like I was captain of the cross country team or making it to sectionals for track or, lettering in cross country. Like those are things I was very proud of and I worked hard for. But like in my adult life, I honestly would say these social media platforms that I have built over the past 4 years. When I was little, I dreamed of being a YouTuber. Like that's what I wanted to do. Like I thought it was the coolest thing. I watched YouTube, I had people who I idolized. Like one that comes to mind, one of the first people I ever watched was iJustine. And like she's still, if you've ever heard of iJustine, she was a YouTuber and she was like really into like Apple products. And I thought she was so cool. And like, there were people like that I watched and I just wanted to be like them. And I wanted to, videotape my life and make videos and edit videos. And when I was in 7th grade, I asked for my very first laptop. The only reason I wanted it was so that I could edit videos, film and edit videos. And like here I am now, like I have a gold YouTube play button, and I never, ever, ever would have thought I could have actually become what I dreamed of being when I was 12. And so if I were to like tell 12-year-old me what I'm up to now, like she would be so proud. And, I get to do what I love every day by making videos, and I genuinely love doing this, and it's like living out a dream every single day. And so like I would say like that's probably one of my proudest things is that like I've built these platforms on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and like I could have never dreamed of doing that, and here I am and I get to do it every day, and I just feel so grateful for all of you and everybody who watches my videos. And so thank you to you guys for just supporting me, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of myself for that, for keeping at it despite like sometimes making mistakes or people sending me hate, and I just keep at it every day. And this actually kind of goes into my next question. So let's move on to the next question. But yeah, I would say I'm very, very proud of that. There are other things I'm proud of accomplishing as well. But like, I would say this was probably the most proud thing because I really have worked hard at it. But this kind of brings me into question number 4. How do you cope with hate and judgment from strangers online? So there are definitely times when I feel like I could, do a better job of coping with it. But sometimes the comments get to me. I'm human. Like, if I read a comment saying that I'm a terrible person, obviously that's going to get to me a little bit. It's natural as a human. But honestly, I usually just don't read my comments. Sometimes here and there, I'll read through some of the top comments and I'll try to respond to some people. But I really try to just not read them. If it's out of sight and out of mind, then I don't think about it. And it's also important to remember that these people do not know me. They don't know my heart. They don't know my intentions. And my intentions are never malicious or bad, but I can understand how sometimes, maybe a video comes across in a bad way, or sometimes I just flat out make a mistake. And my big thing is that I always try to learn from my mistakes, and I've definitely learned a lot over the past few years being a content creator. You have to learn, this is my first time going through life just like anybody else. And so obviously I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to sometimes make bad choices or go about something in a bad way. And the important thing is that I learn from that. And truly, I'm always reflecting. I think ever since really being on social media, it makes me be a lot more reflective on who I am and, how I can be a better friend, a better partner, a better family member, just a better person in general. And I'm always working on that. And I am really hard on myself sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Or I'm so terrible for doing that. Why can't I just be a better person? And so I'm really reflective about things like that. And I really try my best to learn from all of my mistakes. And trust me, I've made many mistakes, and I will continue to because I'm human. But I do have actually a story about the first time that I was ever canceled. And I actually want to do a whole episode about all of my cancellations. I think it would be interesting to talk about nonetheless. So maybe I'll do a full episode on that at some point. But the first time that I was ever really canceled on TikTok, it was almost 3 years ago now. And I remember I was sitting at my desk. School was about to start. It was the morning. First hour was the bell was going to ring in 5 minutes. But I had happened to be scrolling through some of my comments, and I had this video that blew up in a really, really bad way. And people were sending me messages and commenting and saying really, really awful things about me and coming for my character and, sending me death threats and saying they wanted me fired and saying that I'm a terrible teacher and I really need to quit and I'm just an awful person, and just the list goes on. And there was a lot of more explicit words said. But all of a sudden, I was looking at that and I was starting to freak out. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And so I went into the library, which was where my old mentor teacher, she worked in the library at that time. And I went up to her, and she could tell I was really, really upset. And she was like, what's wrong? And I remember I opened my mouth and I tried to speak, and nothing came out. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't breathe. I started hyperventilating. And I was freaking out, and I was trying to kind of explain it to her, and she probably couldn't really understand what I was saying, but she was like, okay, let's just sit down. Let's just calm down. Just try to breathe. And she kind of sat with me for a couple minutes, and then she was like, okay, I'm going to go into your class and get your students started for the day. and you're going to stay here and try and collect yourself and take a little bit of time. And then when you're ready, come back into the room and then I'll be there with your students. Okay. And that made me feel so much better. I was like, okay, I have a few minutes to like get it together. And that was really, really dark. Like that was a really like sad day. Realizing like that like tens of millions of people were like hating you, and it was awful. And also literally the next hour, during second hour, I was to be observed by my principal. Like I had a formal observation that day. So it was a big day. It was a bad day. It ended up being an okay day. Like I collected myself. I went back into first hour and everything was okay. But yeah, that was the story of the first time I ever got canceled. And ever since that time, I decided like, I just have to let these things roll off my back. I can't take every comment to heart. And my boyfriend at the time, my now fiance, like we had like kind of just started dating, and he reassured me and he was like, Noelle, like these people don't know you. They don't know you. They are sad human beings who have sad lives, who have to say negative things about other people to make themselves feel better. And I was like, I know. And it's just like, it's hard when it's happening to you. So how do I really cope? Like I said, I just, I don't read comments. And it was honestly one of the times, there was one time I turned my comments off, and it was a very peaceful moment knowing that people couldn't comment. It was so peaceful. But yeah, I would just say, don't read the comments and just try to remember that these people do not know you. They are saying these things about you based off of like a tiny little clip. And they don't know your story. They don't know your life. They don't know you. And so just don't read the comments. Protect your peace. Turn the comments off if you wish. And block people. I block people a lot. Like it's a very empowering thing to block someone. For real. Like it feels so good. Excuse me. Let's move on to the last question. We have one more question. Do you plan on being a teacher until retirement? Okay, honestly, no. If you had asked me 5 years ago if I would still be teaching in the year 2024, I would have been like, heck no. No. What? So the fact that I have even made it this far is like kind of impressive for me. I'm like super proud of myself for that. But yeah, no, I don't see myself doing this forever. I don't think I ever have. I think I hoped that I would when I went into this profession. And then when I, began teaching and had a really, really hard first year of teaching, I was like, there is absolutely no way that I will make it to my 50s or 60s doing this job. Like it's just not a sustainable career at this point in time. At this point in my life, teaching works for me and I still enjoy it. So I'm going to continue doing it if I still enjoy it. But I don't see myself continuing to do it as I get older. I don't see myself enjoying it like once I have kids. I don't know. I just don't. I don't know. Like the breaks are amazing. Like I love all the breaks that we get. But the lack of respect from society, from parents, from students, from everyone is really infuriating. The pay is lower than it should be. We are not paid what we're worth. And so it's, to me, like at this point in time, it doesn't feel worth it to continue doing this for the rest of my life. So short answer, no, but like I also don't have plans to quit anytime soon either. So like take with that what you will. But yeah, it's just, teaching is a really difficult career, and people who don't do it don't understand that, and that's fine. But it's really frustrating when just like, I don't know, the lack of respect really is hard. But from strangers, from students, from parents, like it can be a lot to bear sometimes. And people also don't realize like how much we truly do as teachers. Like, I don't know, I don't want to get too far into that, but short answer, I probably will not be teaching until I retire, but I also don't have plans to quit either. So yeah, that's my answer for that. Well, okay, this episode was a little bit shorter. That's okay. But that's our show. That's our episode for the day. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you all have the sauciest weekend. I know my weekend is going to be very saucy because I will be enjoying my weekend at the lake with my girlfriends. My college girlfriends, we started this kind of tradition after we graduated college to do a lake weekend together. We started doing it at one of my friends' lake houses in the Ozarks. In the past couple of years, we've done it at another friend's lake house outside of Omaha, Nebraska. So it's just been a really fun thing to kind of do with the college girlies, especially because not all of us live here in Kansas City anymore. So yeah, I know my weekend is going to be saucy and it's going to be fabulous. And I can't wait to tell you all about it next week. Don't forget to follow both of my Instagram pages, Spill the Ranch and Noelle of Sloths, for updates on my life and podcast things. And if you please, leave a glowing review for me for the podcast on Spotify so I can continue to make these wonderful episodes for you guys. So yeah, that's it. I will see you next week. Bye.